Hi folks, back for another video in a whole new location. This is the old library here. My son actually cleaned it all up and intends on using it for his recording studio, and because the rest of the house is in a bit of a disarray because we are in kind of cleaning mode, I thought I'd use this room for the video. And it's going to be a short one. We're going to post it to 8thDayDawning, and I do have finally a new computer. I'm not certain I'm terribly pleased with it, but at least it operates in a manner that I'm quite used to and adjusted to. And really all I want it for is for recording videos and doing some study and research, so it's more than competent to do that. So I said we were going to do a video on the Philosopher's Stone. It's going to be a quick one. It's not going to be very long because it's just something that we're going to let perk in our mind for a little while and think about. Like, that's how I work. I do that a lot. So let's see if we can discover anything just by thinking about things, supposed random things that really shouldn't have that great of a correlation and yet seems to. So let's look at Philosopher's Stone. What's the Philosopher's Stone? We've probably, most of us who watch us a lot of TV or documentaries or historical, whatever, we've probably heard or come across it at some point, the Philosopher's Stone. So what's the Philosopher's Stone? I'm on Wikipedia. I'll post all these links for anybody who might be interested in going in and looking at them, in case you can't find them yourself, which most people in this day and age can. So the Philosopher's Stone, or more properly, Philosopher's Stone, that depends on where they put the apostrophe at the end. That's why it's got it there like that. Is a mythical alchemical substance capable of turning base metals, such as mercury, into gold. Oh, look, we got gold. Or it says possibly, or silver. Well, now that's interesting because I had begun a study about 2 months ago and I haven't gotten into it at all. And I would really like to get in depth into it because I think there's something there. But we know that with the silver, Joseph divined out of a silver cup, right? That in the end got placed in Benjamin's sack. And so Joseph said, well, I'm keeping Benjamin. And of course, Judah steps up and says, no, you're not keeping Benjamin. You take me instead, please, because you'll break my father's heart if you do. So, but there's a lot on this, because we have the Holy Grail also in play, which all factors into this Philosopher's Stone. So just quickly, what's the definition of philosopher? Okay? Or philosophical. So, philosophical, relating to or devoted to the study of the fundamental nature of, and get this is important for all of us to hear, and then eventually, hopefully, to see it with our eyeballs. The study of the fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, and existence. That's what philosophical or philosopher would mean. So we have the Philosopher's Stone, or the philosophical child, which you'll find in alchemy, all right? So what's the definition of alchemy? Definition of alchemy. Alchemy is from the ancient Greek, from Arabic or from ancient Greek, is an ancient branch of natural philosophy, a philosophical or proto-scientific tradition that was historically practiced in China, India, the Muslim world, and Europe. In its Western form, alchemy is first attested to in a number of pseudographical, and that's where this little note ends. We'll go in. Let me see. Is first attested to in a number of pseudographical texts written in Greco-Roman Egypt during the first few centuries A.D. Alchemists attempted to purify, mature, and perfect certain materials. So, again, we'll leave the link to alchemy. It's the alchemical child, or the Philosopher's Stone, and it's all to do with knowledge, understanding our existence. Now, there is a word in the Greek, and I didn't look it up again. I've hit on this so many times. I'm sure you're sick of it, but that word is edu. Let's do it. I have time here. This computer is making it so easy for me right now. I'm going to get spoiled before I ruin it. Okay, so we want to look up Strong's Greek. I believe the word is idu. If I spelled it right. Did I spell it right? I didn't. My finger hit. I'm still getting used to this cute little keyboard. Okay. Let me see. Idu, 1492 is your Greek word. To be aware, behold, consider, perceive, I know, remember, appreciate. Let me see, is this the word I want? I may not have the right word here. Yeah, it is the right word. Okay. Properly to see with physical eyes, as it naturally bridges to the metaphorical sense. So we're looking at metaphor here, which is what they'll say this philosopher's stone really is in the language of allegory. So to the metaphorical sense, perceiving, mentally seeing. This is akin to the expression, I see what you mean. I see what you are saying. So seeing, that becomes knowing. It means you got to open your eyes and listen with your ears. You've got to be the philosophical child about your great work. And it's your own personal work, how far you're going to get in it. It's not up to somebody else. It's not up to an idol to do it for you. It really is on you to do it yourself. Then is a gateway to grasp spiritual truth. So this is seeing that becomes knowing. And then is a gateway to grasp spiritual truth, reality, right? We just got that from a physical plane. All right? Then is physical seeing, sight, which should be the constant bridge to mental and spiritual seeing, which is comprehension. Now, if you're bowed down at the feet of the idol, with your neck hardened, your eyes shut, your ears closed, because you're so sure you've got it right, you're never going to comprehend anything, ever. I guarantee you that. That's called being the fearful and unbelieving. That's what that is. They've just flipped it all around on your head. Now, where else are we going to go here? The Holy Grail. How does the Holy Grail, you think, play into this? Well, let's look this up. It's interesting because we're getting a lot of the same language with the Holy Grail with the current day show that's big. And that's the Wheel of Time. A lot of the language that you're going to find is going to be found right here in the Holy Grail in Wikipedia. I'll post the link. You're going to get the Sangria, the Sedai. You're going to get all of that language right here. The Tuatha, right? The Tuatha, the way of the leaf. The Tuatha Danann. Now they tell us a man is the way. No, the way is the way, which is God's way. And that ain't an idol of a man. God said, you saw no image of me, you make no image, you follow my way. All right? That's what God says. You are to have no idol between you and God. And that's exactly what you got. And the more you study it, the more you know it. Holy Grail, Sangreal. You got Percival. So if I think Percival comes up in the Holy Grail, his name here, you want to hit on that. And Percival, the story of the Grail. It was an unfinished chivalric romance written by Chrétien de Troyes around 1190. That's pathetic French. Chrétien story inspired many continuations, translators, and interpreters in the latter 20th. That was quite interesting. I went in and read that. But the Tuatha Danann, also called the Aes Sedai, or the fairies of latter folklore, which were known as the fallen angels. So we're getting all the connections here, right? And there's some talk here. I find this fascinating. Excuse me. I had a dream years ago that I saw, and I had forgot I had this dream. It was only when I was watching one of my older videos that I found revisited that dream. And I was shown a platter, a silver platter it was, in a dream. And this is the Holy Grail. In its beginning forms was conceived of as a platter. And I was in this dream, and I didn't really know that until I actually hit on this. that the Holy Grail was conceived of as potentially a silver platter. And on that silver platter dream, what's the word? I can't even remember my dream. Mandate. On the silver platter was a piece of paper, and written on it was one word, and it said mandate. This was the whole dream. And when I picked underneath, I don't know if I was the one that picked the platter up or somebody else picked the platter up. I probably wrote the details down. And under it was another piece of paper that said now. Right? So that dream had to be, probably, well, I've been doing videos now over 5 years, or, yeah, I can't remember, 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, yeah, 23. I've been doing them for a little over 5 years. So that dream probably occurred 4 years ago, maybe? Because it was one of my older videos, and I'm sorry I'm getting off topic here. But the Holy Grail was conceived of as a silver platter at one time. And over time, it really has gone through a whole series of changes and whatnot. And it's really allegorical, is what it is. And the Holy Grail was never supposed to hold blood. It was always supposed to hold water. Now that's, when you understand your Old Testament, you get how they really shifted things around. And the Philosopher's Stone was really about covering the truth of what that was representing through allegory. That's really all that was. They were really trying to hide and bury the truth and kind of lost their way. And the Bible says the snare that they lay for us to fall into, they actually fall into it themselves. They actually lose sight of this truth and forget their own lies, their own snare, and they fall into it. And that snare is that man is God, Lord, and he can create his own immortality. Well, he can't. Not without the stone. So let's examine that. Where do we get it? Where do we get this idea of gold and stone, the Philosopher's Stone, in the Bible? Well, they'll show the stone as if it's a gemstone, right? They'll oftentimes in pictures will show the gemstone, the Philosopher's Stone, in many instances. Sometimes it'll be green. It'll lead you back to the emerald tablets. Yes, it's all wrapped up into the same, allegorical context that these men chose to write in. And it was men writing these allegorical, alchemical. See, we're getting wizardry and witchcraft involved into the whole spell casting that actually comes down to the shaping of our own creation with powerful minds and spells that are put in play to keep that, right? To keep that shaped and formed. I know I'm not making sense, but once the deeper you get into this, the more you do understand that. So this substance was supposed to be able to change, like we just said, base metals or stone, just a simple stone, into a high metal, like gold or silver, it says. All right? So where do we find any hintings of that in the Bible? Well, we know this. We've looked at this. Lamentations 4:1. What does it say? How the gold has lost its luster. The fine gold become dull. The sacred gems are scattered at every street corner. How the gold has grown dim. How the pure gold is changed. The holy stones lie scattered at the head of every street. How dark the gold has become. How the pure gold has changed. Now, that's a different rendering. Let me go in here. We're going to find out just what the King James says on this. So what does the King James say in Lamentations 4:1? We did a video on this, and we know that the gemstones were the sacred stones, which were your feminine, your daughters, which were to protect you with the law of heaven. You weren't to worship them no more than you were to worship a male idol as God. You saw no image, you make no image of me, right? And we made 2 images. We discovered this as well. They rushed right out, made 2 images, and over time, they tore the female one down and then said, hey, you can come worship at our altar in Judah, which was a male, right? So then they stream into that male idol and all begin to bow down to it and forget about the truth. So how is the gold become dim? How is the most fine gold changed? The stones of the sanctuary are poured out in the top of every street, or scattered at every corner. I really like looking at the various renderings. So down we go. The precious sons of Zion, here we are, which were the gold. Compared to fine gold, how are they esteemed as earthen pitchers, the work of the hands of a potter. So they tell us the potter is male. They would say that this is the creator bringing them down, and indeed the creator did. So we find the potter. Where do we find the potter? You told the potter that she had no power over the clay. You turned everything upside down, to which they did. And the potter allows them to do this, right? This is what we begin to understand. And then in the third verse, we get the daughters. Well, even the sea monsters draw out the breast, they give suck to their young ones. The daughter of my people is become cruel, like the ostriches in the wilderness. So why have we switched from sons all of a sudden to the daughters? Why? Well, we discovered Mordecai's name, and he was Esther's, the one that reared Esther after her mother died. She had no mother to rear her or teach her how to bow or not to bow to a man. Mordecai's name means worshipper of Marduk. Marduk means the golden calf idol out of Egypt. And that turns over time another name for the golden calf, or the solar calf deity out of Egypt, which followed the Israelites straight into their holy land, was the Apis, the bull god Apis. And then over time, we are told that becomes the standing idol of Baal. Baal is another name for your bridegroom, plain and simple, which is an idolatrous idol, which is the idol between you and your true God. Now, that's what we've discovered. So here we have, how is the gold become dim? We're told in the second verse, it represents the sons of Zion. The sons of Zion were the sons of God, because the daughters inside the nation of Israel was known as the presence of God on earth. We've broken this all down in our videos. They were the camp of Mahanaim, whom you later on see with the Shulamite in Song of Songs, right? Which are then allegorized as she-goats, right? Yeah. The devil, another name for the devil, was a daemon, he-goat. And they're called he-goats because they're the ones that climb to her throne, right? That's what we see. And they take the she-goat. Now, they want to make it two goats. The scapegoat was male. No, the scapegoat was female. We see this in the world. Open your eyes. You do. You might bridge that distance between your physical and your spiritual realm. You can see that. They yoke us. They took our rights away. Historically, on times, she'll be tossed a few more rights and then they'll yoke you again. Only, they think they're in charge of you. Well, they're not God. They never were. We were equal in God's eyes. We were all equal under the law. We all had right to the same rights until the men said, hey, we're God. This is why the sons become nothing more than clay pots. They're not valued as gold anymore. And the reason is, and we'll link it back to Mordecai, the golden calf idol worshiper who murdered these precious gemstones. These were your wise women in the nation of Israel, known as the presence of God on earth, who was sent to teach you the way of God. You were to worship the way. You weren't to worship a male or a female. You were to worship actually, and by worship we mean to praise that way and to continue to walk in that way. When you have an idol between you and your God, you can't be walking in the way. You're too busy caught up in, no, God is man. God is male, and empowering him to twist the law of God and the way of God. And that's what you have done. You can say, no, we haven't. We're going to go right back around into that loop again if you girls can't pick yourself up from the feet of that idol. And before the body, which is typically represented by the male, whereas the spiritual aspect is represented by the feminine, if she can't pick herself up from the feet of that idol, then that clay cannot be made new again. And we get that. If the first fruits are holy, that's these reborn daughters out of the dust of the earth, then the lump, the body, is also holy. But if they stay down at the feet of the idol, that's akin to the harlot spirit staying in existence in the land, bound to a male idol, which is what is becoming between you and your God. She's not going to hear you. And yes, the male is represented by the father, the feminine by the mother, but it is the mother who represents the spirit, where the law stems from, who is also wisdom, the Ancient of Days. And without her, there is no life. And Father is smart enough to know this. He is. He's smarter than any man on the face of this planet. He knows what's happening when you debase, or what's going to happen when you debase Mother. You're going to end up making one sweet mess, round and round, until there's nothing left. And you wipe yourself right out of existence. That's what's been promised to you. So you've got an idol between you and your God. So here we have the sons compared to fine gold, right? Yes. But then we see the stones, which this is all allegorical. Now, the only one they'll let you know about is the sons of Zion. Well, the sons of Zion were the sons of God. We know this. But we know that the presence of God were the wise women inside the nation of Israel, called the presence of God on earth, known as the camp of Mahanaim, that Jacob wrestles with and steals her birthright. Now we see this, to which he hamstrings him. So they are esteemed as earthen pitchers, the works of the hands of the potter. All right. So where do we get the stone then? Well, we get the stone in Daniel, right? So think of the philosopher's stone here, and how you're going to be restored back to immortality. Oh, did I not pull Daniel up? I did. So in Daniel 2, the king has a dream, and Daniel is called to interpret that dream. Now, this is what the king, who is the gold head, which is Babylon, right? So we get, number one, an idol, a male idol standing, is what we get. And then eventually we're going to get that stone, which was the rejected stone, which is the reborn stone, smashing the toes. Now you can see this as a precious stone. Eventually it will become, just like the sons who are listening and hearkening to this stone will become the precious gold once again. So the dream's interpretation. Your Majesty, while you were watching, you observed an enormous statue. This magnificent statue stood before you with extraordinary brilliance. Its appearance was terrifying. Verse 32, that statue had a head made of pure gold. Now, we're told that this will eventually be shown to represent King Nebuchadnezzar himself, which is also the head on the idol that must come down. All right? This magnificent statue stood before you with extraordinary brilliance, and its appearance was terrifying. That statue had a head made of pure gold, with its chest and arm made of silver, its abdomen and thighs made of bronze, its legs made of iron, and its feet made partly of iron and partly of clay. All right. Go down. It's me. Okay, just getting used to the operations here. As you were watching, a rock was quarried. It was quarried, but not with human hands, right? Then we go to Micah 4, and it says, the lionesses, they will be appointed, but not by the sons of men. These daughters are not going to be appointed by man. They're not going to be gave permission by man to be reborn into the spirit that God designed us to be and to represent on the earth. And it says, what? Know ye not the stone from which you are quarried from? I didn't pull that verse up, so let's go do it. I believe that's found in Isaiah. Know ye not. I'll just put it in there so we get it right. Isaiah. Know ye not the stone from which ye are quarried? Don't you know? Isaiah 51:1, salvation for Zion. Look to the rock from which you were cut from, to the quarry from which you were drawn. Hearken to me, ye that follow after righteousness, and ye that seek the Lord. Look unto the rock from whence you were hewn from, into the hole of the pit which you were digged. Now, where is that? Well, currently we're in the womb of Sheol, right? We have made a covenant with death, with Sheol, with the womb of Sheol. And with Sheol are we at agreement when the overflowing scourge comes, they won't touch us because we have hidden ourselves under a refuge of lies. So it's all being connected back to this stone, right? Out of which is the philosophical child or children that will actually be birthed out of the womb. If you do not pick yourself from up from the feet of that idol, you go back into the ground, back into the womb of Sheol. Is what I'm going to suggest at this point in time until my understanding grows. You do not get birthed out. You don't. Because you're not fit to, in your current condition, bow down at the feet of an idol. But this is where we're queried from. This is where the stone that we're seeing in Daniel is actually queried from. And that is our mother. And so it says, if the first fruits are holy, the lump is also holy. If the root is holy, so too the branches. So we're coming back to this same allegory from what you're queried from. The branches come from the root, which was our mother Israel in the beginning. And it's found that she is holy. It's found that she always was holy because she's reborn with the truth. They caused that truthful covenant to be wiped out of existence so they could play God, which is your idol and statue in Daniel 2 of a man standing as your Lord and God, Baal, which was a solar calf deity straight out of Egypt that followed the Israelites straight into their holy land. Now, once we see the water covering over her steps, it seems to be an allegory that they would eventually just wipe her right out with this admixture of doctrine. Though she parted it the first time, they caused this admixture to come over. And we see Moses actually hitting the stone where the water would come out of instead of speaking kindly to, which we knew then that the men were going to strike her down. Now that's what that was all allegorizing, just like Jacob wrestled with her and stole her birthright, right? So it is all there in allegory, just like in the Philosopher's Stone, the alchemical child, and all of that. It's all there. It is. So again in Daniel, we see the stone. As you are watching, a rock was quarried, but not with human hands. Okay, so I wish I had brought my Bible down. Okay, so let's go to Micah. I want to find that verse. They're not appointed by the sons of men. This is taking longer than I thought. Okay, it's right there. Is that the verse? There. So the remnant of Jacob, no, the remnant of Israel. She's Israel. The women inside the nation of Israel, and there was one daughter who held that title of giving birth to that nation. We're beginning to understand it. It always followed the mother's line. We know that through Ezekiel 19. We also call it the woman's seed for a reason, because it was the woman who gave birth to that nation. The men, if they married outside that nation, were no longer considered Israelites. That's how we know that that is the truth. They were written right off the books. You are no longer a child of hers. All right? You married a daughter from the outer nations, and those are not hers. But what we do understand over time is that this one daughter gave birth to the nation of Israel. From there, the daughters themselves inside the nation of Israel will scatter to the four winds and give birth to the succeeding nations. That's what we understand. I will make nations of thee, right? It says, you were brought to shame, great shame, but I will give thee fame and glory in every land where you were put to shame, because it was these daughters who gave birth to the nations. But then we saw the surrounding nations in Israel came around her like thorns and thistles, and that was the men guiding their women. And we get some of the women who were named with names that don't mean good things. They were violated in many ways. We see this. And coming in and contaminating the woman's seed. And it was using the men inside the nation of Israel. They were pouring poison into their ears, false doctrine into their ears, a false law saying, hey, you boys can write it. You don't have to listen to the women inside the nation of Israel. They don't represent God. You do. You do. And we see them actually buying into this in Jeremiah 23, which is why we have Balaam, which means husband, Lord and Master, and Balak, who was terrified of this great nation of Israel, who were growing in such massive numbers. They were terrified of the rule of the women inside this nation, who were causing it to grow at such a great magnitude that they really saw themselves as not being able to hold on. And said, hey, we got to devise a way to take them out. So they devised sending the women in when Balaam couldn't curse them. God says, you're not cursing this nation. This nation is of me. Balaam says, okay, Balak, go get your women. Send them into the men and seduce them with the poison. He didn't say it poison, but that's why we get the scorpion. That's why we get the snake. That's why we get the wormwood in the law. That's why we get the beast system. They really turned into beasts. That's why you get Nebuchadnezzar roaming for 7 years as a beast before he finally comes back to his sense and reasoning. And that's what we get. It's all about the law that was violated. God's law and word got violated when man rejected the stone, these precious gemstones, right, which made him like gold. And that's wisdom. The value of wisdom is above everything. Every rich leads back to wisdom. And we're told that. We studied that in our last video on Ruth Abbey. So Micah 5:7, what does it say? The remnant, not of Jacob. He stole her birthright. Israel, it was hers. The remnant of Israel will be in the midst of many peoples like dew. Dew is the doctrine, the true doctrine. It's not the lie. From the Lord, like showers on the grass, which do not wait for anyone or depend on man. So you're not appointed by a man giving you permission to become what you were meant to be in God, which is the stone. See the stone quarried? Do you not know where you're quarried from? Do you not know the root of the tree that you come out of, dear daughter? It was your mother Israel. Which are these branches, which is also your first fruits, picking themselves up from the feet of the idol, which is coming between you and God. Now, this is all there. And this is your philosopher's stone. The precious gemstones that got murdered on the cornerstones were the wise women inside the nation of Israel. And then we see men like Mordecai, whose name means Marduk, worshiper of that solar calf deity, who changed the glory of Israel over to an animal that eateth grass. That's found in Psalm 106. Yeah. And then that becomes your sacrifice. A man as your sacrifice. God says, I ask no blood of you. I asked you to walk in my way. I asked you to be washed in my word. Water, not blood. Blood stained you. That's the stain of Cain. They can say hair all they want. It wasn't hair. It was blood that stained him. And he did not offer up the goods of the land. It was blood that he was offering up. Why do you think he then later on murders Abel, which would have been his sister? There's a male and a female in the womb. There's not two males. So they've really distorted the whole picture, and this idea of man and man and man is your head and you worship him. And no, you better go back in and study your Old Testament, and you better let your eyes and your ears begin to bridge that distance for you, unless you can't be bothered to pick yourself up from the feet of the idol. So Mordecai then does what? He takes over the instructing of little Esther. And there was another video, and it said, let me tell you my story. Esther can't tell you her story. She was robbed of her story by men like Mordecai, who means worshiper of the solar calf deity, who is actually helping to bring in this doctrine of this idol that you see in Daniel 2 that Nebuchadnezzar dreams of, that this rock's got to smash your toes on to bring it down out of the land, because that is what is standing between us and our God, our true God. Not an idol. You saw no image. You make no image of me. You worship my way and you follow my way. That's how you're going to know me. All right? You're not going to know me as a he, and you women better bow. And he can do to you whatever he wants, and you can say, no, that's not true. You better take a look around you. Historically, you better take a look around. You better, to understand the truth. Right? That's the philosopher. Understand it. And so here we get this stone cut out without hands smashing the idol. And you can choose to be a part of it, or you can choose to be ignorant and ignore it and harden your neck to the truth that you will discover for yourself over time. if you allow the Holy Spirit to lead you. If you don't, then hey, you can go back down into the womb of Sheol, because that's what's waiting for you. But here we have, as you were watching, a rock was quarried with not with human hands. That's right. And it struck the iron and clay feet of statue, breaking them to pieces. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were broken in pieces together and became the chaff. Your chaff is your wicket. From a summer threshing floor, you get the capstone being brought forth, which is this stone here, identified as Zion. That stone in Zechariah 4 is identified as feminine. Then they say, grace, grace unto it. It's also akin to the 7 eyes that sees in the land. Excuse me. Then the rock that struck the statue grew into a huge mountain and filled the entire earth. That's Mount Zion. That's her rulership. She had the right to rule the land with the law and the government as the government of God. Now that authority came directly from God. It did not come from man. But man thinks he has a right to tell you what you can or cannot be. Well, again, in Micah, what did it just say? It said, the remnant of Israel, that's the daughters, it's referencing the women, will be in the midst of many peoples like dew from the Lord, like showers on the grass, which is your first fruits, which do not wait for anyone or depend on a man. You're not appointed by man. You don't wait for a man to give you permission to go in and study who you are in God, because he's never going to do it for you. They fell into their own snare that they laid for us to fall into. They fell into it. They really believe they're the God men on earth, and they totally ignore you. Well, I don't wait for a man to appoint my position. I wait for God to. And God woke me up in the spirit and opened my eyes, opened my ears, and has allowed me to climb as one of these she-goats, right, to begin to understand what really is at play here. And the remnant of Israel shall be in the midst of many people as a dew from the Lord, as the showers upon the grass that tarrieth not for man, nor waiteth for the sons of men. I don't wait to be appointed by man. I'm appointed by God. And I realize that goes over most people's head because they have fell into the snare. That everything, male, 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 male. Well, do you know the definition of God? The definition of God isn't male. The definition of God is a spirit that can do and be anything. That's the definition of God. That's not a man. But the men of this earth, after they broke or took out the true foundation stone and packed in the lies, that's your foxes, who are burrowers, who dug out the truth. Catch for us the little foxes that would destroy the vineyard that's in bloom. And you know what they're doing? They're trying to do it again. They're trying to destroy the vineyard that's in bloom. And it's up to you, daughters. It is. You have a burden on you. And if you want to be released up from it, then you better pick yourself up from the feet of the idol and stop saying he. That ain't God. You saw no image of me. You make no image of me. You follow my way. And it was on you, daughters, to teach my way. Now, that's what we're instructed. And we don't wait for the appointing by man. We don't wait for him to go in and study because he's fell into his own snare. Tickle, tickle. It's honey on his tongue, but it is really wormwood in the gut. It's poison. It's absolute poison. It has poisoned our system. It is the beast system that we are living under right now. Okay, and so that's the stone, right? We get the Philosopher's stone. We really do. Gold. That can turn everything into gold and more, right? And so when Mordecai, we see Esther, right, being taught by Mordecai how to bow to a king. And then that's where we see the king in the book of Esther ordaining the law that every woman would bow to her. It's got husband there. Go look the word up. It's Baal as Lord and God, as your master, really, is what he's saying there. Yeah. And so Esther don't know her story. Esther was robbed of her story, just like most of us women. You know, for a long time I was guilty of bowing to this idol. I truly believed I loved him. I truly believed that that's all there was. There was nothing else. And then this little spirit began to speak deep within me as I began to grow in understanding and knowledge of that spirit. And this little spirit would say, there's something so wrong here with this all being to do with God. And absolutely, we're always the bad guy. We're always stupider. We're always less. We're always more wicked. We always must shut up and listen to him. Then all you got to do, historically, look at what they've done to our histories. Look at what they're doing to women around the globe. They're continuing to yoke them under their man-made religious lies and laws. We're the spirit that was to rule this land, we were. But they didn't want a righteous spirit. She is not for our turn. They wanted to twist her into a wicked harlot spirit that would bow to them, the idol of Baal. It's all there. But it is there in allegory, which is what they'll tell us the alchemical child or the philosopher's stone or the Holy Grail is. And yet, then you've got this other side that will say, no, it's a real item. It's a real item, because they really want to distract your mind from understanding the truth. But it is there in the scriptures. So sorry, the video is too long, really. I expected it to be about 15 to 20 minutes. Thanks for watching. Hopefully, if I get time to study, I'd really like to look at that silver cup that Joseph divined in. Really, we only get this mention of kind of a chalice. And how did he ordain in it? He didn't pour blood into it. It was water. And that silver chalice was representative of the feminine. That's what it was. The gold is representative of the sons of God who were to exalt the law of God, the law of mother. But Father didn't do that. He had too much pride. Yeah. Which we linked, of course, Satan directly to the name of Baal. And that's so easy to do. Just look at the words, right? In both in Hebrew and Greek. And you'll understand that the accuser in the garden was the first Adam, Satan. Yeah. That's what he becomes known of as. Know ye not my name for Baal? You forgot my name for Baal, God says. In Jeremiah 23. And the fathers began to prophesy using the he pronoun in that chapter. It stands right out. And anyway, there we go. Sorry, I'm blubbering some more. Thanks for watching my video. I pray the Lord blesses you with an abundance of truth. I hope you all have a lovely day. And thanks for watching again.